it's Jack, and this video is called I Have a Crush on a Coworker, but I'm Happily Married. And just as we start this video, we have an orchestra that started playing, so bear with me, but I want to go with this. So if you've had this situation or you're in it currently, I imagine it's been incredibly painful, confusing, disorienting. It might have created isolation. Maybe you haven't been able to talk about it with anyone, or perhaps very few people. Perhaps this is not something that you've talked about with your partner. So if any of all of these apply, hang in there. I think what I've got will help you. So the first thing I want to say is realize that these situations are incredibly common. You know, one of the gifts that I have in the work that I've done for the last decade in coaching people is finding out that difficult territories that people find themselves in are more common than you might realize. Now, you might say, well, look, that doesn't help me. I just want you to know that you're not alone in this, and that if you are being hard on yourself, just realize this is objectively difficult territory. Very few people that I've worked with in these sorts of situations went looking for anything like this. Nearly always, it's caught them by surprise, it's caught them off guard, and they've been underprepared for it and haven't really known what to do with it. One of the difficulties about situations with coworkers is that it's obviously not easy for you to extricate yourself, right? In some situations, if you hypothetically go to Vegas and you meet someone, you can decide, hey, okay, this is difficult, inconvenient, but I'm actually going to leave it behind. If it's a co-working situation, normally these things, as I've seen them, they're kind of like slowly all at once, right? It seems like there's no issue, and then suddenly you or someone else catches feelings, and before you know it, you're in deeper territory than you realize you were going to be in. So all of that just to bring some objectivity to your situation. It's objectively difficult. People who haven't been in this situation can be critical and moralizing. And typically it's because they haven't been in that sort of situation themselves, or they haven't been present to other people who've been in these sorts of situations. So I would let that go, and I would focus on what are you going to do that's going to help you for here. So here are a few things that you might want to consider. One is I do think it's legitimate territory for people to consider to make a shift in their work. Right? So if this means that you might have to shift your pattern of when you work from the office, if it means you might have to change the physical location of your office, change floor, change building, ask for a transfer, these sorts of things I think can be on the table if it's not been a situation that you've been able to sort out on your own. Right? Said differently, if your relationship is important enough to you, then it's important enough to protect it. And though it might at one level seem drastic to start to consider to change offices, if that's what it takes for you actually to put this situation down, then it might be what it takes, right? So I'm just saying put all the options on the table and think laterally about this. The second thing that you might want to consider is to remove any kind of false hope from the situation, right? So I'll come at this from a different angle. I've worked with lots of women, typically women, not only, but women who are stuck on men, women that date men, and the guy doesn't want to be in a relationship with them, or he's not making himself available for a relationship, but he's in the connection enough that it's hard to put it down. And this can be very disorienting and confusing and heartbreaking at times. Oftentimes, one of the things that's keeping it in place is this sense of false hope, right? That maybe this could be something. Maybe one day, right? Here we are, Peace One Day, International Day of Peace. Maybe one day the guy will have some change of heart and he'll come around. So if you have a crush on someone, right, and at the moment it's the level of feelings, what might be keeping it in place is some kind of fantasy idea that maybe it is going to develop into a relationship, or maybe you're going to one day have some kind of makeout or physical encounter with this person, or maybe there's some kind of story that this person is so sweet, innocent, perfect. Maybe there's something that you've built up in your head that is actually a little bit of a distortion of reality, right? Everyone is a mix of light and dark, right? So even if this person is in some dimension of reality is showing up as kind of perfect, or what will often happen is they'll show up in an opposite orientation to how you experience your partner, right? So maybe your partner is cautious and responsible, and this person you've caught feelings for is spontaneous and carefree, right? So part of your sobriety can be noticing, oh, there might be some dimension of reality that this person represents that I am drawn to, and I want to cultivate more of that in my own life and possibly in my own relationship. And that's actually what life is giving me the wake-up call to. It's not actually giving me the wake-up call that I need to go pursue something with this person, right? So it's bringing sobriety to the situation. It's not making you wrong that you caught feelings for someone, but it's saying in your mature self, you can hold that and realize, this actually could be an invitation or a wake-up call. The other thing that I've seen with this is what I'm calling like the over purification or the over fantasizing of the other person, right? Most people, if you hang around them long enough, have flaws, vulnerabilities, inconsistencies, contradictions, dark sides, unmet needs, unhealed wounds. You say, well, thanks, Jack. That's such a rosy picture to paint of people. It is rosy in the sense that roses are part of reality, and what I'm talking to you about is part of reality, right? So it can be easy to polarize the truth in a sense with this love fantasy or person you've caught feelings for, right? To imagine that they are only love and light or sweetness, or that they're going to be the solution to some problem in your life, or that perhaps just in sobriety when you're with them, because you're not talking about the kids, the mortgage, the pet insurance, your debts, your in-laws, the vacation that you still haven't sorted out, the family plans, the garage that needs fixing, just all the mundane details of life that are part of your life. With this person, perhaps all you see is, oh yeah, we connect and we talk about global affairs, right? Or we ride our bikes into the office, or they just want to talk to me about anime or computer games or whatever your things are. Just realize, and this is part of dropping the false hope or the kind of false narrative, that you're only connecting to a part of this person, right? Everyone sits on the toilet. Everyone has bad habits. Everyone has bills to pay. Pretty much everyone. Right? So there can be a little bit of sobriety of realizing, when you only see or connect with a person in one dimension of reality, it's not a fair comparison between that person and your partner who is likely to be in every domain of your life, including some super mundane and stressful aspects of your life. The third thing that you can do is that you can actually consider, if you haven't done this, to share this with your partner. Now, you might think, well, I don't want to because I feel like I've been cheating on them because I've been catching these feelings. I want to give you a different perspective. I want to say that it's likely in your life you're going to be attracted to many people, right? Now, we could say there's a step up from attraction, which we could call a crush, right? Catching feelings. That's also likely to happen more than once in your life. And even if you are long-term partnered, it's probably going to happen at some point. So maybe there's also a sobriety in this to say, hey, in your most mature self, you can own that this is inconvenient. You can own the impact of it. You could even own, maybe there's some way that you've contributed to this. Maybe you have stayed late at the office when you could have decided to go home, or maybe you let this person come closer into your life and you didn't realize that it was some kind of threat to the relationship, and now you see that it could be. And maybe you can own up to this, and maybe that's actually okay. And maybe you can also be available for the impact, right? Maybe your partner's going to be angry, and maybe they're going to feel jealous, and maybe there's going to be a whole set of experiences, and maybe that's difficult. But I think if you were in their situation, you would rather that this were included inside the relationship, and you might say, hey, how could we as a team deal with this threat to the relationship? Now, if you're seriously thinking that this, catching feelings, you have been fantasizing that you're going to leave your relationship, then that's a slightly different territory. But I'd also wonder how sober that is, right? It might not be that that's actually your best course of action. And it might be, even if that were something that crossed your mind at some point, or you've been thinking or fantasizing about it, you could still bring this into your relationship and say, hey, here's the reality, and it's not pretty, and I'm not necessarily proud of it, but here's what's going on, and I wanted to bring it to you, and maybe I could have brought it to you sooner, but perhaps I thought it was going to pass, or I've never been in this territory before, thankfully, and I don't really know what to do, but I want your support, and I want to support you in this experience, right? So that would be one relationally oriented way of dealing with this. The fourth thing that you could do is actually get some professional support. You could work with a coach, you could work with a therapist, you could work with someone that can create a container for you to fully explore what is going on here without judgment, let you get all your feelings and experiences out. Sometimes, by the way, it's just incredibly powerful if you can have a container with someone that can listen to you deeply, just to fully get the experience out, because it's probably been being held in you, because you're probably not advertising it to all your friends and family. So if that's the case, I do encourage you to consider to work with someone, because you need support. This is a difficult experience. And even if part of you is judging yourself about this experience, that doesn't diminish your need for support, and it doesn't diminish your primary relationships need for support. So I would definitely consider to get some support. If you want to get support from me, I'll leave a link beneath this video. You can reach out to me. You can make an application for coaching. I'm happy also for you to reach out to me, even if you don't think I'm a good fit for you, just to get some perspective. I know lots of people who work in one-on-one situations with clients, and I may know someone that's a good fit for you. So you can reach out through the same form. The last thing I want to say to you is don't rush it. Give yourself time to metabolize what's going on here, right? So oftentimes these situations are so painful and triggering and difficult that we want the way out, right? Now, yes, you might want a resolution to this, and I do think a resolution will be forthcoming, but it might not be tomorrow, right? It might take you a little bit of time to square up with yourself, hit your journal, maybe get some professional support, maybe engage in some conversations with your partner, maybe make some changes in your workplace environment. Maybe you need to have a more earnest conversation with this person just to say, I need to be closer to my partner at this time. We've got some stuff going on that we're working on, and as part of that, I'm actually spending less time with people who aren't my partner, right? So you might need to bring some kind of boundary into the space with this other person, and there may be an impact on them, right? And maybe you don't want to have that impact, but life is impact. We're always impacting people. Of course, you and I love it when we impact people positively, but I never met anyone that only impacts people positively. Sometimes we impact people with difficult feelings, but again, you could be available for that impact, or it might not be appropriate for you to be, right? If you're actually saying, hey, I need to downshift the time that I spend with this crush, and I need to protect my relationship, then they might need to turn to someone else to get support for if you guys are now spending less time together. Now, could of course be a crush that's being completely unshared, and it could also be a crush where you don't even spend time together, right? Maybe it's like an across the room kind of crush, or we have, our cubicles are nearby, but this other person would have no idea. If that's the instance, the advantage is that you haven't really brought it into the space. But you're going to need to bring it out of view in order to let it go. It's very hard to have something completely held in and not reflected in a space with some other person, and for you to be able to fully metabolize it, particularly if it's not something that you have metabolized before, right? And the vast majority of people that I see in this instance is not that this is their pattern, right? That they always have some kind of love interest at the office. It's actually this caught them unawares and they don't really know what to do with it. And sometimes the intensity of feeling can be confusing because it's hard to recreate that intensity of romantic infatuation or whatever proportion of that is what is here with someone that you have a more long-term love with, right? Because mostly you've been through that arc with them and now it's stabilized out into a more coupledom and companionate form of love. Most of us would like to have a primary relationship where there's still a lot of passion, and there's also just the sober realities of all the vectors of life that you share with this person and whether that makes it possible. If you can, use this as your wake-up call, right? Most people grow not just from inspiration or meditation or enlightenment. In my experience, people grow from what? They grow from pain. They grow from a circumstance that life provides that is difficult, that they can't just shake it off. They have to look at it. They have to slow down. They have to get clear with themselves. They have to get support, reflection. They might have to re-examine their values. They might have to notice, oh yeah, like at work, I occupy a particular persona, and that leaves me more open to people thinking I'm interested in them, right? Or maybe there's a part of me that over time I have tolerated that I'm not bringing into my primary relationship, and I actually want to go back and recommit to finding a way to bring that in, right? Even if it's a slow and difficult path. So this is your wake-up call. Rarely do I see that actually what life is saying is you need to be with this person, right? Normally it's saying, hey, could you pick up the phone? I've got some message I want to bring to you if you'll open up to it. So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't let your inner critic run riot. Life is always giving us circumstances that we're not yet qualified to deal with, right? That's called growth. That's called opening up to the fullness of who we are, to our more authentic dimensions. And often life will do that through inconveniences, love interests, love triangles, crushes, you name it. It's part of the experience. So let's have you being kind to yourself, get support if you need it, and you will be able to move through this. If I can be of support, again, just link beneath this, hit me up, and I'd love to read your comments. I read them all. So give me a comment. If you'd like this video, smash that like button. It helps me get the word out. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.